Welcome back to Against the Cage. Scott Fontana here with New York's own Fatima Kline, who on Saturday at Madison Square Garden won for the third time in a row, defeating Angela Hill by unanimous decision at UFC 322. Now, Fatima, before we get going here, I don't know if I memory hold this or something from our conversation, but I just realized in preparation for this that you were actually born in Queens. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that, but before that you actually were fighting in the city of your birth. I just knew about the Long Island ties. How long did you live in Queens before your family kind of moved out?
Um, yeah, I was born in Queens. I it was, obviously I was like newborn. I believe up until I was like 4 or 5 years old, and then we moved to Long Island because I remember, whatever age you start kind of kindergarten, I believe that's where I was in Long Island because that's where I started going to school. And then I was in Long Island until I was 13, and then when I was 13, I moved to upstate New York, where I live right now, Hyde Park. And yeah, I've been here ever since. So ties everywhere.
Right on, right on. And of course, the reason why we're talking right now is you had a fantastic performance at Madison Square Garden. You had already experienced an MSG fight from one angle when you were with Erin Blanchfield for her fight a few years ago. Of course, your friend and training partner, who got the win as well this in
Yeah.
this occasion here. But what was your experience for this one, being in the cage, like for you, fighting in the city of your birth?
Yeah, I mean it was like an experience like I've never had before, and that's what I wanted it to be. Going into this fight, I was like, I want this to be unique. I want this to be one of a kind. And man, it was. Being in the crowd and seeing what basically everything besides the fight itself is made of was obviously like an amazing experience when I watched Erin beat Molly a couple years ago. But looking back and remembering like, oh, I can't wait to fight there. And then 3 years later, it's like how quickly time moves, and how time flies when you're having fun. And really, I just I could believe it, but at the same time, like I couldn't, And even now, looking back and even just taking the drive back up home, I was like, wow, this is my home. I fought in my home state. I fought in front of my home people. I won in front of my home people, and it's like, what more could I ask for?
And of course, those people, so many of them came out. You had a giant section that was cheering for you. You found them when you were waiting for the
Yeah.
decision. We talked about that a little bit at the media time there, but also again because you're so family oriented and you guys are so close knit, you finally got the chance to see them later on. I think it was after Aaron's fight. What did your parents say to you in particular once they finally saw you?
Oh my gosh. I think if you know my mom just screamed. So the minute I saw her, it was just like she just started yelling. And it's like we were at the hotel and like people started looking, and I was like, it's all right, Ma. She just leading up to the fight, she'd call me just on the phone, like screaming out of excitement. And she that's just who she is, and that's where I get, my excitement from and my like it's go time from. And then my dad, it was like it's like he had tears in his eyes. And really it was like I felt like it was a special moment between me and my dad because he's been in my corner before, and I was able to take him on stage with me to ceremonials. And like I said before, like I worked with him in the city my whole life. He's been in the city his whole life. Both of my parents born and raised in the city. And so it was just a really sweet moment to kind of just like I feel like we were all just at the same time soaking it in and just being like, wow, it's like not like an I did it, but like a we did it type of feeling. And it is a we did it. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without my parents. And so every win, every time I step into the cage, I remember that. And yeah, I take my humble beginnings very seriously.
Of course, of course. Now, let's talk about the fight itself as well, because obviously a lot of things went right here. You gave us some insight in the media room that night, but I'm hoping now that you've hopefully had the chance to go back and watch your
Yeah.
handiwork for starters, how do you feel about that performance with the benefit of replay? Because you were pretty critical of yourself that you didn't get the finish.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely I don't know why I took it so to heart right away. I think it's just who I am. I think like even during my camp, it's like I was taking like if I had a bad training session, I took it really hard. I think it's because I just put so much pressure on myself to like really perform and finish. And okay, if I didn't have a finish, we're going for the finish. We're going for the finish the whole time. And so I think that's where that reaction came from, is that I wanted to go out there and set off fireworks. And looking back, and I've watched it a handful of times now, I am super happy with my performance. I'm happy with the statistics that I saw after my fight, how many significant strikes I had, the ground control time I had, my technical abilities. I mean, like I was like, wow, my boxing looked a lot better than how it maybe was like initially feeling in the fight. Um, and yeah, I am happy because even like the going into the last round, like I was like motivated to finish her, and I was ready to do anything possible to finish her. Up until the very like 5 seconds, like back fist head kick, and I was like, even though I didn't finish her, I was like, I'm happy that I went out there and I like tried my absolute hardest to do that, and she gave me the fight I 100% expected. I expected a tough fight, but man, I did not expect her to be able to just eat kicks like that and eat punches like that. So that's the only thing that really surprised me. Um, and so looking back, I am grateful I had a tough fight like that. Going forward, if I could knock everybody out and submit everybody, TKO everybody, I will. But again, like if you want to put me through a tough fight, I'm going to put you through one too. And so that's what I feel like I really gained from this one.
You landed that head kick, and that was literally like the end of the fight, and she ate that. You were right there, kind of with her. Did you notice if she maybe, because like let's play this out a little bit, devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Maybe it was another 15 seconds there. Do you think that she was still with it as well, or?
No, I think like even my parents, I was talking to my parents. I think if this was a 5 round fight, you would have seen us finish, no doubt. I felt like I had her rocked a couple times during my fight. I know like two, 3 times specifically, I knew I had her on kind of wobbly knees. But credit to her because she took everything I had going towards her. Um, I would have liked to finish. I think if I had an extra 15 seconds, an extra 2 rounds, I think I would have. And I think that goes to show a lot, looking for the future, that I know I could be dangerous in a 5 round fight.
Sure. And again, it was a comprehensive victory for you. You won it on the ground, you won in various facets of the distance striking. Well, which is that was where Angela has traditionally performed her best, at that distance striking. How long did it take you to kind of settle in with your own stand up and really feel like, okay, like this is my night. I know it.
Yeah, I think almost like probably within like the first after our first grappling exchange and I took her down, and even within the clinching, I felt like almost right away I was like I feel like every time I'm hitting her, she's coming back with like one or two, and I'm responding with like 3 to 5. And so I'm like, I know I have the speed advantage here. I wanted to get her tired because I know I can tire her out, and as my opponents get tired, I start raising the roof. And so I really feel like that within the first round, I knew, I was like, all right, I was like, this is a winning round for me. Now what can we do to kind of like bring it to the next level? And so I really just appreciate my coaches and how they responded to me throughout each corner, and giving me the confidence to be like, your striking's beating her, especially somebody as kind of like what you said, like that's her strength. Normally people pinpoint me as the wrestler or the grappler, and so I think a lot of times people think I'm not going to win if I don't take them down or grapple them. And so I feel like each and every one of these fights that I've been having, that I have been able to show my striking, that it's giving me that much more confidence. Like, yeah, maybe I can stand with the best in the world. And I did, and look at the outcome.
Yeah, of course. And again, because you had more time. Well, you got the head kick was in the third round, right? That was the third round of that fight.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was another fight that did have some length to it here, but obviously this was a large chunk of this fight was on the feet with someone who has for many years established herself as a UFC level striker in your weight class here. The fact that you went the distance with her, the fact that you had her in trouble literally even at the moment that the 15 minutes ended, and that you won throughout in these exchanges. Does that almost put the division more on notice than if you'd gotten, like, say, just a finish early or something?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think these longer fights that I've been having, it obviously gives people more to look at. And I think it gives them more to look at in a way that it's like, well, man, she's just as fast as she was the first round. She's just as dangerous as she was the first round. And now we're in the third round, you know? And I instilled that in me this whole camp. Me and my coach Augie instilled like keeping them in danger the entire time. Don't let them break. Don't let them rest. Like constantly being their face. And so I think the performance I've been having should be putting people on notice. Again, that's only a small snippet of what I could do. I mean, I'm glad I was able to, we're in mixed martial arts, so I love to almost utilize what I can. Utilize my jiu-jitsu, utilize my wrestling and my striking. But listen, if you don't want to get taken down, then you better be aware of my striking, um, and vice versa. You know what I mean? If you're afraid of the striking, you want to take me down, then I'm okay with being taken down and submitting you off of my back. And so, yeah, I'm glad that people can see me as a person that's dangerous everywhere.
And obviously, not only the striking, it's the power that your strikes come with, both standing and on the ground. Because you see fighters sometimes get to the ground, and when they're striking, it's like, okay, it's kind of that stay busy. Maybe I'm thinking the judges are enjoying that I'm still throwing strikes, but you're throwing strikes with intentions, and they're landing hard. And those are the strikes that really, like, those judges actually are looking for. But you're getting those, and then on the feet too. So much impact. You had a really hard leg kick on her at one point that kind of turned her, as well. So the fact that you got all this power that you're throwing in there, how much is it a kind of a point of emphasis for you to get that impact, that oomph that really secures finishes with these strikes and not isn't just, point fighting, so to say?
Yeah, yeah, no, I am not a point fighter at all. It's never been something appealing to me. Like, everybody has their different styles, but for me, my style is just like almost just intention on the feet, intention during my wrestling, intention, like you said, on the ground and making sure I'm getting my ground and pound in. I think for me, it's like just just wearing them down. I never want somebody to feel like they're not in a fight with me. I never want somebody ever to feel like, oh, I can rest here. Like I'm not resting. I'm never resting. Throughout each and every one of those 5 minutes, like I plan on doing damage. I plan on drowning you out. And so I think it just comes from like who I am. I think it comes from like deep down, like I love to fight. It's what I do. I loved it since I was 10. I have a super intense family. Like both of my parents come with a lot of intensity. I'm one of five, and so I just think everything about who I am is just it's chaotic, it's intense, it's gritty. Um, I think, and I hope it's exciting. I know a lot of people said like, "Oh my God, I love watching you fight. It's so exciting," and that makes me happy because it's like, I don't want to be one of those where I have to lay and pray on you. I want to be exciting. I want people to want to watch me. I want to give people what they want to see. And I think that's my road to being a champion. And so with every fight that I have, everything is what intense. On the ground, if I'm in a bad position, my intention is to get out immediately. There are no breaks for me in those 5 minutes.
And I'm actually I want to bring up the Jasmine Jasudavicius fight for a particular purpose because you're talking about like you never get tired, right? It's 15 minutes. These 15 minutes went your way. Like this was you almost every minute of the fight. That fight was the opposite. How did you feel at the end of that fight as far as how much longer you could have fought? Like, did you have another 10 minutes in you, even in a fight like that that clearly wasn't going your way?
Yeah, I believe so. I did. I think if I had another 2 rounds, even in that fight, I feel like I could have maybe been able to knock her out in later rounds. And considering that was like on 10 days' notice in Colorado, and she said she sat in a tent for 2 weeks, and I still had just as good of cardio, but I did absolutely nothing but fly there. I think that goes to speak for itself. I mean, I know I'm confident in myself that I could beat anybody on 8 weeks notice. I just need time to prepare. And even that fight, I mean, yeah, like I said, like 10 days I went out there. I lost every single round. I threw absolutely bombs the whole time. And I think I had her on wobbly knees at a couple points. Um, and to be able to do that on 10 days and she sat in a 10 or, try to get her cardio up and the 8 weeks that she had, it's like, man, I mean, how much better cardio can you ask for? But I push myself to my limits during my training. So when I feel what it feels to be tired during training, man, you're only sparking the flames for me in a fight. You know what I mean? And so hopefully I'd like to get that one back one day.
Okay, okay, and obviously, if you take that fight out, because that was flyweight,
Yeah.
you've yet to lose a round at the UFC strawweight division here, and as far as I can tell, you've never lost a round before the UFC either. But you've spoken a little already about your thoughts on kind of the judges' scorecard for your fight with Angela. There was that second round that one judge
Yeah.
gave to her. You still technically won that round because you won 2 out of 3, right? Generally speaking, how much of a point is it for you, a point of pride, point of emphasis, to win every round? And you said before you're not a point fighter, but like you're obviously winning these rounds, so there's not an accident here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I I feel like I took to heart that one guy that didn't give me that round, and I looked back at it so many times the second round, and I was like, maybe I'm biased because it's me, but I was like, I don't see it. I don't know if he was looking at his watch or looking at the time or looking at anywhere else but the fight, but I don't know, see how that round wasn't scored my way. All three judges, but I still run that round 2 out of 3. And I think that just goes to show what kind of pace that I can keep. I can keep the same pace from first to third, and I think just with my style in general, it's very aggressive, it's very forward. Even that fight specifically with Angela, that's the first time I kind of like fought on my back foot, I guess you would say a little bit. And I was kind of letting her come in, and at that point, I was kind of point style in a way. But even though I was back on my back foot, point styling a little bit more than I'm used to, I still was doing damage, and obviously the judges could see it, and I think a lot of people could see that. And that's like a huge confidence booster to me because normally I'm going forward. I like backing people up, and in that way, she was just eating everything I was given, and she was coming forward. And it just goes to show that if you want to be the aggressor, I can now point you from my back foot, or if I can move forward and kind of stalk you down and kind of drown you out, then I can do that as well. So I feel like this fight was just like a huge learning lesson to me. I feel like I have so many notes in my head that I'm taking. Even with such a dominant victory, everybody makes mistakes, and I see those mistakes. I hope nobody else does. But even if they do, I see them, and I'll be fixing them.
Now, did you get the chance to speak with Angela in the back afterward?
No, I didn't get a chance to speak with her in the back. I talked to her in the cage, and I DM'd her on Instagram because I feel like she's probably one of the coolest people I've ever fought. We're both American. We're both, obviously highly talented people. I mean, especially she is. I mean, I couldn't believe when I really looked back and saw how many fights she has. I was just like, oh my God, well, no wonder why like she's so tough, you know. Um, Even during summer ceremonials, we were kind of like laughing it off, and he like wiggled my nose and everything. So it was cool. So yeah, I mean, I hope to hear back from her on Instagram, but it's all love on towards this way.
Oh, of course, of course. And you came with Erin to her media time after her own fight, after her own victory. You were moving a little gingerly on, I think it was your right foot here. Maybe there was an ice pack or something. What's the story there?
Yeah, my left foot. I threw a I well I winded up putting a boot on it. I don't think I had a boot on it while I was at the media, but I did wind up throwing a boot on it. I feel like Angela's skull is made out of cement because I don't know if my shin hurts more than her head does. But man, my my ankle right now is pretty purple. But I have to say, hey, if I walk out of a fight without anything broken, then I walked out pretty good. And so yeah, it's just I think she made my bones tougher from that fight.
All right, all right. But then obviously that's a confirmation, no breaks or anything, right?
No breaks. Yes, I'm good. I can stand. I can walk. I'm holding my nephew, so I'm still moving all right.
I had asked you in the media room that night about kind of sneaking away to try and watch Erin's fight when you were done. Did you end up getting to the locker room to watch that, or like kind of how did you do? And when you did finally see her afterward, what was the kind of that moment like?
Yeah, I was able to catch her like I think she was leaving, and I think they said like 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes. I caught her like 5 minutes right before she was about to go out, and it's kind of like polar opposite worlds. Like I just fought. I'm my adrenaline's going down. She's about to fight. Her adrenaline's probably way up. And so I just try to like basically shut out everything about me and like keep focused on her. And so I just looked at her and we gave a nice good like let's do this thing, you know. I think it's obviously super motivating for her to obviously see me win and watch me go through kind of like a tough fight and you know knowing she's going to go out and have a tough fight on her own, which she made a tough fight look easy because that's who she is. But um it was in that moment where it's like, all right, we got one down, one to go, you know. 8 weeks we spent like beating each other up. Now it's time to go beat up the next person, you know? Um, and so it was a super sick moment. I mean, like being able to just share the card with her in general, going through camp together, such a big learning experience. Um, I mean, I would prefer maybe to keep on separate cards for coach's sake and training partner's sake and things like that. But I'm glad that if this is the last one we do, or maybe not, like whatever the UFC wants, that I did get a chance to experience it, and it's an experience of a lifetime.
I was actually about to ask you that exactly. Is that kind of thing you want to repeat or but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But what about when she did come back after her win? What was that moment like for you two?
Oh man, when was it? I think I caught her. I was in the locker room. She fought. She came to the back. Oh my god, we almost met like halfway, but between like the media and like the arena. And I was like, dude, I was like, you did it. And she's like, you did it. And I felt like we just went back and forth, like, but you did it, but you did it. And I think we were just so like obviously she got her finish, which is like incredible. You know what I mean? The way she finished her, I mean, I was watching it live and I knew I was like, oh, she's got her net, like done. You know what I mean? Like there's no way Tracy's getting out of this. And yeah, I mean, I she cemented herself as somebody that deserves a title shot, and I cemented myself as that I belong in as the number 12. And what more can you ask for, you know? And so we just celebrated. We had some pizza. They had some pizza right in the back. I stole a cookie from the back. So it was just a good time between us and then even our coaches. I mean, everybody was just like, wow, it's over. You know, it's almost like 8 weeks and now it's over. It's so crazy how fast life goes by.
Sure, sure. And, obviously this was fighting on home turf here, like we've said. UFC comes to the Garden every year like clockwork in November. Do you think you might try to angle to get on here 12 months from now?
Absolutely. I mean, I plan on if I'm not already in top five by then, I plan on fighting to get in there. Listen, if I could fight on the New York card every year, I would. Obviously, whatever the UFC wants and what their plans are, but wherever they put me, I'm gonna put on a show. And so if that's New York every year, it's New York, and if it's who knows, you know, I just I plan on being exciting, giving them exactly what they want, and getting exactly what I want, and that's my journey to the top.
You're an interesting part of this like sort of little mini youth movement in strawweight, right? It's you and a trio of Brazilians, Yasmin Lucindo,
Yeah,
Denise Gomes, and Alexia Thainara. You guys were supposed to fight on Contender Series. That seems like a fight that potentially is sitting there down the road. You guys are still both. It doesn't seem like it makes as much sense now as it did for Contender Series, but just with regard to this group of young women. You're all in your 20s, working your way up the rankings. How do you picture the 115 landscape looking, say, a couple years from now, maybe 2 years down the road when you guys are really coming of age?
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be that era of like Rose and Joanna, just like the hyper talented, just super technical, exciting, thrilling, um, sometimes sassy fights, you know? I think we're all super talented. I think we all put on a fight. I think maybe sometimes strawweights might get overlooked because we're smaller. We don't always, there's not always like so many knockouts. Um, but I do think for the handful of us, I mean, we're all fighting for the same thing, right? We all want to be champion one day. And so when you get two people with that much of a desire to be champion, how could you not expect a good fight? Um, and so yeah, I'm excited to see where we all end up, who ends up at the top, um, and who I'll have to fight to get there.
And, look, you started the year, this particular year, as kind of a bit of an unknown outside of, let's say, the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania corner of the MMA world, right? You had that short notice fight last year we already spoke about. But then you go 3-0 this year. You've really put yourself on the map. When is the soonest you'd ideally want to get back in the cage? And is another 3-0 year a target, or maybe is 2-0, like a two-fight year, a little more, something you'd like to see?
Yeah, I think I'll be ready to fight probably like around like the March area, like February, March, April area. I'll be ready to fight and wanting to fight. I'm gonna obviously, being number 12 now, take my health seriously and make sure like any lingering injuries are gone. Fix all the mistakes that I need to fix and get myself basically ready for whoever's next. I could definitely picture myself doing three again, depending on the layout of the fights and what kind of fights we're looking at. But my plan for next year is to be in top five. And so that's probably like my year about like where I want to be. But hey, listen, if UFC thinks they want to push me a little faster, I'm totally okay with that. I mean, I feel like if you know obviously when you're talking to the fighter, I have the utmost confidence in me. So I do feel like, if you put me against top five right now, I feel like I could put on a show. But I don't want to rush myself. I want to make sure my coaches we're all making these decisions as a team. Um, but I think God has the best plan for me, and I'm willing to trust in that plan. And whatever that plan looks like, then that's what it's going to be for me.
Fights fall out all the time, as you know from the whole thing with Jasmine. But as far as taking a short notice fight at say 115, number one, is that something that appeals to you? The UFC always likes that kind of thing. And number two, how much time do you need to be able to get to 116?
Yeah, I'm not. I would never take like a short notice fight. That's not something I plan on doing. I mean, they saw what happened. My only loss in my career is from a short notice fight. And so I'm a winner when I have time. Is it? I mean, credit to that guy who, oh my God, beat Lawmaker on 2 days. I was
Ethan Ewing, yeah.
I'm I'm still yes, Ewing. I'm still shocked. I mean, man, I give that guy so much credit because I'm like, dude, you did like almost like what are the odds of that? Like one in like 200, 300 fights that a guy could win on that notice. So credit to him, but yeah, for me, I need notice. I think being number 12 now, I need time, and there's no way I can make 115 on short notice. That's just it. I would have to cut off my legs to make 115. 8 weeks is my time. I can make 115 safely on that time, and hey, I want to put on a show. I need time to be able to put on a show. I think UFC knows that, and UFC respects that out of me because every fight since every fight this year, I've had months notice leading for it, and so yeah, I'm just grateful UFC's been giving me the time that I deserve. I'm obviously winning with the time that they've been giving me, and I think they know that, and so yeah, I plan on having a full camp going forwards for sure.
Sure, sure, sure. And you've mentioned this a few times now. You got that number 12. You were beating the drum for that number 12, and you said if you got it, you were not going to complain about your fight anyway, right? So you got everything you wanted out of that.
Yes.
The only known upcoming fight in your weight class is Amanda Lemos against Jillian
Oh,
Robertson next
yeah,
month.
yeah.
Other than that, it's a wide open field. Nobody's scheduled in a way that anybody knows about at the very least. But when you look at kind of the way the women are shaken out as far as their availability, what do you? I'm going to make you be bold here. Give a name. Who should you be fighting next?
Uh, I believe I should fight Tabitha Rishke next. I think she's a good fighter. I think she's tough. She's obviously popular, so I'd love to steal her fans and to steal her ranking. I think, I've heard a lot of fans say, "Oh, fight Richie, fight Richie." I know some people are looking to push me right up to like top five, and they're throwing out Jillian Robertson. But I think for me, Tabitha seems to be winning majority of her fights, and I want to fight people that are on the uprise. I don't want to fight people that are kind of making their way out of the door. I want tough fights. I want hard fights, and I want to be able to prove that you know I can win those fights. And so that's
And
somebody that
she's coming off a finish too.
who did she finish last?
Oh goodness, who? And it's escaping me. But
Oh
she picked up a
gosh,
TKO. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Rebus. She just fought
Yes,
Rebus,
Amanda
and
Ribas. That's
she
right.
elbowed. Yes, yes. Yeah, Amanda. She elbowed her. Yes, I remember watching that fight, and I thought she did really well. And so yeah, leading into the Angela fight, I knew if I could call anybody out, and uh, that I would have called out Tabitha.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And Mackenzie Dern, obviously, she's the strawweight champion
Yeah.
now. She won the title that Zhang Wei Li had vacated to challenge for that flyweight title at the Garden. Clearly didn't go Wei Li's way. Did you stick around at the Garden to watch? And what did you think relative to your expectations for it? Because you had told me in the lead up that you were pretty confident Valentina Shevchenko would win even dominantly.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't wind up staying to watch it. I didn't even watch it at all, to be honest.
You've
I've
not
just
watched? Oh, okay.
no. I've only heard about it. I was a little shocked that I know there was a lot of groundwork being done. I was pretty surprised at that. I thought Valentina maybe would have. I mean, to me, I was like Valentina by KO. That was like if I could put a bet on it, that was kind of my bet. Um, I know Whaley's obviously super tough, and it seems like she's one of those like Angela Hill. Like you could literally throw a grenade at her and she'd be fine. That yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I think she should go back to 115. I don't see why the reason would to be to stay at 125, especially if she lost pretty obviously, which it seems like she did. But hey, credit for her to, you know, perks to you for going up and testing the waters and taking that leap of faith and trying to do what most people can't do for sure. But yeah, I think she was a great champion at 115. I mean, uh, yeah, I'd say go back down and get your belt back again.
Sure, sure. And I would imagine that's an anticipated fight, but obviously she doesn't always keep the busiest schedule, right? She tends to
Yeah.
fight more like 8, 9 months or so at a time. I don't know what the UFC wants to do, but I want to wrap up here because I do want to circle back to something that I asked you a little bit about before, but you were kind of more focused on Angela Hill at this point, so you didn't want to get too far ahead of yourself. But devil's advocate here again. Let's say you go 3-0 in 2026. That makes it six in a row. You'd still be unbeaten at 115
Mhm.
pounds in the UFC. Well, in general, very likely sitting on that very short contenders list in that top five, maybe even higher, like you're talking about. There's only 11 women between you and the title in the rankings. So like, there's not that many fights even available above you. Uh,
Right.
is is becoming a champion in 2027 before you even turn 27 maybe in July, I believe, right? Is that
Yes.
a realistic goal for you that you could kind of set for yourself and say, hey, maybe I can become that champion before I'm 27?
I would think so. I have thought about that, and I have had people kind of say it in the way you did, and man, that puts the biggest smile on my face because that makes me excited. I believe I could do that. I could believe I could go 6-0 and be on the brink of a title. Um, that doesn't scare me away. Maybe touching a title picture sooner than maybe what's expected of me or the expectations I have around myself. Um, Again, like everybody's beautiful, you know. as somebody who's never lost at strawweight, I was being that flyweight, and so I know what it's like to win. And I do know what it's like to lose now, um, and I hate losing. And so I do plan on going 3-0, and yeah, if I never lose at strawweight, and that's my purpose and that's my destiny, man, I'll be the Khabib of the strawweights. Um, but I just want to make sure I stay grounded, obviously throughout the whole path, and not rush myself, and you know just yeah, trust that again, like God has a plan for me, and I know UFC has a plan for me, and I'm ready to take whatever route that is expected of me.